Good morning, learners. Today we will be discussing Introduction to Philosophy as part of coursework of PhD offered in Department of Educational Studies. We are deliberating on the paper Research and Publication Ethics being offered here at department. So, I would be starting with the first unit, Introduction to the Philosophy. Now, as we know, there are so many ways people have considered philosophy, but having so many different conceptions won't help. So, as is human nature, we try to categorize. So, we have categorized philosophy into three common conceptions based on literature. First, people view philosophy as wisdom, they view philosophy as ideology, they view philosophy as critical inquiry. Now, these conceptions of philosophy may be distinguished also, but there are certain common elements that are being shared between them. Now, a person may derive ideology from wisdom and then subject it to critical inquiry so as to have revised wisdom or to have revised ideology. Now, I would like to give you an example. A truth that has been discovered through critical philosophy, it may be considered to be something to be worshipped. It becomes so uncritically established that now there was an insight that after NCF we started saying that education should center on child. This is not so. We had been saying it before also, and if we focus only on child, then the other aspects of education can be missing out. So we have to see what is being critically established. There is another example, continuous and comprehensive evaluation. It was through critical inquiry that it was established that it is very good practice and something which must be there in educational arena. But what happened when it came to ideology? There were so many flaws. For example, in name of continuity, the children were subjected to evaluation all the time. So they were under the pressure. The main objective, or after the critical inquiry, it was established that it will relieve students of stress, but now throughout the period they were subjected to evaluation and that was being used for grading. So the purpose of formative evaluation was defeated. So, and as regarding comprehensive evaluation, we did not prepare teachers and the way it was being done, it was not successful. So this critical inquiry could not get into an ideology which could have been practiced quite well, and therefore the system was not working properly. We were in the name of formative evaluation, which was to strengthen the learning of learners. We were giving them grades FA1, FA2. So the whole purpose was defeated. So there are certain similarities and there are certain differences. So if we try to see what do they mean, you see there are many famed philosophers like Socrates, Aristotle, Aquinas, Locke, who have said so much about education. For example, Dewey talks so much about democracy in education. Now, in ideology, we try to put it to practice, and how do we incorporate in educational institutions. If we look at these conceptions, we will find that wisdoms and ideologies are usually inculcated into us. So, people do not like that these be questioned. We are taught them as absolute truth in our childhood or even otherwise. But critical philosophy, it is actually basing itself on practice of analysis, which inculcators of wisdoms and ideologies would like to avoid. So they are no doubt related, especially in educational practice. we have to see how they are related and how do we consider philosophy when we are doing it in context of education. Let's move on to first conception of philosophy where it is considered as wisdom. So, what is wisdom? It is a thoughtful response to a question or situation. Now, this response may not have been very extensively thought out, but definitely it will have certain element of reflection in it. So, at the very base, at the very least, this notion of reflection or thoughtful response is core of philosophy. Now, wisdom includes two related ideas. One, there can be personal reflections on broad questions, and there can be prophetic wisdom. Now, these philosophies can be seen as arising out of personal experiences or may have sacred origins also, not always prophetic, but also sometimes society also tries to give us certain rules, policies, etc., which it thinks would enable us to pursue our life in a better manner. Now, we have heard or maybe we have read about people saying or writing that you can't expect too much from life without being disappointed at times. And people also say, live and let live. This is such philosophical statements. Usually, people do not uh, counter them. They are not considering why they are being said. Okay, so usually people are taught that they have to follow them because here it is said it is established fact and no further justification is required. Then there are statements or writings of prophetic individuals which may have been taught to us and which are considered to be wise and worthy of veneration. For example, in Quran it is said, "Do not covet favors by which Allah has exalted some of you above others." And there are so many things that are written in every religion, जैसे कर्म करे जाएं और फल की इच्छा ना करें, ऐसा गीता में भी लिखा है. So these wisdoms are core of religious movements, are treated as sacred scriptures, and people do not, I mean do not welcome challenge. Indeed, a question or skeptical attitude is thought to be rude or often offensive. Now, philosophy as wisdom in education also, we have tried to come up with so many statements that people do not try to even challenge them. For example, every person should be educated to his or her full potential. Now, if we could have realized potential, it would no longer remain potential. But these things or these statements are taken as sacred, and in our teacher education courses or maybe in education courses, people usually do not and they are taught not to challenge them. So, practice makes perfect. What is perfection? So, these kinds of things are taught to us as wisdoms and we go by them. Now, philosophy as ideology. Now, what is ideology? It is going beyond wisdom and seeing that how that wisdom can be put in practice. So, it usually serves as program of action and organizational needs. How do we go about it? Now, there are many mission and vision statements of educational institutions which serve as ideology of that institution. These philosophies can sometimes be acquired pre-packaged, and educational accrediting agencies publish books of them that school or educational institutions can use, and they serve it as an item on menu. So if we look at ideology, it is a body of ideas which reflects social needs, aspirations of an individual, group, class, or culture. Now, it is also a body of doctrine, myth, symbol. You can also call it a political or cultural plan. So, it also is offered with procedures for putting it into operation. Now, I would like to give you an example of philosophy as an ideology. I have taken it from some elementary school mission statements. It says, the social development of elementary school students proceeds as the child becomes aware of various authority structures that operate throughout the school, the community, the region, and the nation. So they believe that school must help. This is what they intend to do. What they want to do is the school must help the child establish a perspective on responsibilities and opportunities inherent in multitude of authority systems in a democratic social order. So what school wants to do is actually promote democratic social order. Now what they have conceptualized as democratic social order is that they have said that there are multitude of authority structure, and if you visit a school you will find that there may be within a class a teacher might be appointing a monitor who is an authority over rest of the class, and that monitor is supposed to maintain discipline. And what kind of discipline? That is to make students not speak in the class. So whenever he or she feels that students are not observing discipline, he writes their name on the blackboard and reports it to the teacher. Again, there is an authority above him, which is teacher. Now this teacher also tries to maintain discipline and says that you have to do this. If you don't do this, there are sanctions. Otherwise, if you do it, there are rewards. If the students or learners or children do not feel that they would be doing what is being said by the teachers, then there is another layer of authority. She may visit headmaster or headmistress. Again, he or she would like that whatever discipline or rules have been established in the organization, the students of every class be following that. Again, if headmaster is not able to keep up that discipline, we move further. Another layer of authority, moving on to vice principal, then to principal, maybe board of management. This is how we go. So instead of saying, instead of saying it as democratic social order, we are trying to establish that a school may be run like a miniature police, and we are rationalizing it. So we are here trying to structure and control the organization. So this democratic social order has this emphasis on authority. So with this ideology, we will find that students will be suppressed. They will not be speaking in the class. So what we do in ideology is, when we are establishing or developing ideology, we are converting the wisdom of whatever authority, maybe prophets or maybe some learned person, into policies and day-to-day procedures, and we try to justify them. So sometimes what happens when we are trying to put it in practice, so or day-to-day procedures, we stretch the original intent and statements to broader and novel application. What happens is, whatever was the true intent, whatever was the true, I will say, spirit of that policy is lost, because it is supposed to serve day to day needs and procedures. So if you look at some church organization or schools being run by the church, they practice forgiveness. So their teachers are sometimes complained against that they do not practice forgiveness as often as they should. What happens is sometimes organizational demands, they often substantially change, and they change the spirit of the philosophy or wisdom. So sometimes expediency, it becomes so important that whatever was the intent of that wisdom, whatever was said, we are not able to follow. Now, philosophy is also considered as critical inquiry. So, when we say we are practicing philosophy, we have to enhance our analytical, critical, and interpretive capacities. So, these are applicable to any subject matter, not necessarily in subjects or courses which our students are supposed to study. Now, it gives students appetite for self expression and reflection, for exchange and debate of ideas, for lifelong learning, and for dealing with problems for which there are no easy answers. So I express myself. What do I feel about certain things? The questions come to my mind, not something that has been given to me in a book. So here I reflect on my day to life issues. Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? So here there is exchange and debate of ideas, not just vomiting out what people have told me. So it is actually something, when we say critical inquiry, using our mind, using my self expression, and not expressing myself only as per what authorities, organizations need me to express. So here, if you look at critical inquiry, the focus is on careful questioning and systematic appraisal. There is no special respect given to any source of opinion. I do not agree with certain things because my teacher, my book, or so and so authority on this earth says so. Here, the purpose is not to honor individuals or bolster organizations, but to try to get at the truth. Now, this is a process of independently analyzing, synthesizing, evaluating information as a guide to behavior and beliefs. So, if we look at American Philosophical Association's definition, it says it is the process of purposeful, self regulatory judgment. This process gives reasoned consideration to evidence, context, conceptualization, methods, and criteria. It is actually thinking about thinking. Why should I do a particular thing? It will, the skills will include ability to interpret. I interpret on my own. I am able to verify the facts and reason them, and all of this will imply using logic. So something I say, I like you or not like you, it is based on 1, 2, 3, 4, these established criterias, and not my whims and fancies that I do not like the turn of your nose, or I like you because of turn of your nose. So it is something which is very essential. It is actually a liberating force. So it gives students, it gives individuals purpose. It makes them inquisitive, and they are well informed when we are inquiring. So what happens is, we are well informed, we try to look at various informations that are available to us. They are trustful of reason, not going as someone who is being led by others, being passive, but very much open minded, flexible. When I am open minded, I have to be open to whatever ideas that are coming to me. So there might be something which has been learnt by me, but if evidence so warrants, I may have to unlearn it and have to relearn something new. So people are flexible, they are fair minded in evaluation, they are honest in facing personal biases. That this should not happen because of my personal bias. They are willing to reconsider whatever judgments they have made. First, they would be prudent in making judgments, and they would be willing to reconsider judgments. They should be clear about issues. So, what happens here is we are trying to be persistent in seeking results which are precise, and they are precise as the circumstances of inquiry permit us. So it says, when we are saying philosophy as critical inquiry, it says any statement purporting to be truth is challengeable. Now, what are the rules for making that challenge more than just an expression of dislike? So it considers knowledge as tentative. For practical purposes, we may accept something as true, but if later the evidence warrants, we may change also. For example, you might have seen that earlier people had this belief that Earth is center of universe. Then came the time when people said in solar system sun is stationary and planets are revolving around the sun, and then now we say even sun is not stationary. So we do not accept anything and everything just because my religion says so, my teacher says so, my book says so. Something different is required, and this is reasonableness and evidence. So if I have to reiterate, it is a phenomena, it is a conception which says whatever is considered commonly to be true, okay, now we can subject it to inquiry, and we have to have a reason to accept it. So it is a method actually. So no personal authority will be establishing truth. It does not encourage us to be followers or true believers or passive people. It encourages us to think for ourselves, following certain procedures. These procedures are based on objectivity, not prejudice. They are based on logic. So we as educators are well served by learning these procedures, especially in a pluralistic society where there are so many wisdoms and ideologies that are competing. So what we have learned today is that wisdom is somebody means some authority or ourselves reflecting on certain things, coming to certain conclusions and using them in our life. Then we have ideology, where whatever wisdom we have established, maybe my personal wisdom or whatever prophetic wisdom has been established or given, or societal wisdom established, we try to put it in practices by following certain rules and procedures. So we try to operationalize, put things into practice. That is the main agenda of ideology. You see, the manifestos of various political polities can be considered as their ideology. They have same problem, that they want to eradicate poverty, they want to give employment, but the way they would be putting it in their manifestos, how they want to do it will be different. So whatever is wisdom, when we want to put it into practice, it becomes ideology. And philosophy as critical inquiry, it teaches us, it encourages us to think beyond whatever has been said by certain people by applying logical thinking, having this kind of aptitude and attitude of subjecting things to inquiry. So nothing will be established as truth forever. It will be always, the name itself says inquiry. So this is how we consider the three conceptions of in philosophy. We will, if time permits, some next time, moving on to how philosophy and education are related. So this is for now. So thank you very much. See you some in some other topic. Thank you.
यू ही देखना था सीधा थोड़ी देर, कोई नहीं.
अब देख ले.